When you're an entrepreneur, raising money for your startup from angel investors or venture capitalists, you ask yourself the question, how much equity should I give my investors? And that's a really tough question to answer because venture capitalists and angel investors, well, they negotiate term sheets every day, and you don't. So you're at a decided disadvantage. I've raised over $100 million in venture capital funding and private equity funding. And I've helped entrepreneurs like you raise rounds of between $50,000 and $150 million for their startups. I've been around a lot of fundraisings and I know what works and I know what doesn't work. And in today's video, I'm going to teach you the right questions to ask, whether you're raising angel funding, a seed round, a Series A round, or a Series B round, or any round in between. And you'll want to stick around to the end of the video when I teach you how to maximize the value of your startup with a very simple trick you can use when you're raising money. So let's get started. If you're not already a subscriber to my channel, then hit that subscribe button right now and you'll get notified every time I release a new video that helps you as a startup CEO. Okay, so let's set things up. We're going to go through the set of things that you need to do to get the right deal from the right investor. Now notice I said the right investor because when you take a deal from the wrong investor, it doesn't matter what the valuation of your company is, it's going to come back to bite you. And I'm going to show you more about this later in today's video. Okay, now the first thing you need to know is that asking how much equity you should give investors is the wrong question to ask. And here's why. And I'm going to go through the reasons right now and what you should be doing. First, investors know the market and you don't. Who's the market for the deal? That's the question you have to ask yourself because it's like any other market. They're buyers and sellers. And the investors are the buyers and you're the sellers. The buyers set the market. They're the market for your deal. So for you to be sitting there and trying to set a price without understanding their perspective, you're doomed to failure. You don't want that to happen. Second, when you try and set the valuation, you can leave money on the table because you don't know the market as well as they do. So you can hurt yourself by setting the market. That's the second fallacy in this that you want to avoid. Now the third one is the opposite of the second one. If you try and set the value, also, you can price yourself out of a market by setting the price too high. So what's the remedy here? The remedy is really simple. Let your investors lead this discussion, not you. In other words, what should you be saying when they ask you, well, what's the value of your company? Well, we're going to let the market set the value. That's the golden answer here. Now, when you do that, most investors, not all, but most investors are going to take a cue from that you are being professional. And they'll say, okay, this person has been well coached. In fact, I've seen VCs do this. When you say this to them, they say, oh, well coached. Okay, good. That's fine. Because you let them lead. Always, when you're in any negotiation, be it with an investor, a customer, whomever, let the other side go first. You can always react to it. Even if they do what's called anchoring the price low, you can always react to it and deal with it. But you're much better off because at least you can understand where they're coming from first. You're much better off. Now, let's say you don't get this luxury. And let's say that you keep getting pressed. And as much as you're saying, no, I'd like you guys to go first, you tell me, say, no, we really want to hear from you. What's the answer? Well, the answer here is what you do is you give a range. Don't set yourself with one value. Say, I've seen deals like ours go between X and Y. That's the magic answer, if you have to. Because now you're showing flexibility, which is important. You're not tying yourself down to one number. Don't do that. You'll help yourself by not doing that. So be careful, but you can succeed at this by doing that. That's the way to get out of that little pickle there. But always, always, always try and let the investor go first. They set the value, not you. And most investors have a pretty good idea what they want to pay for something. And there's not much you can do to persuade them otherwise, except for one thing, and we'll get to that later. I'll show you how to do that. That's the magic thing at the end. Now, if today's content, if you really like it, then hit that like button, please. Thanks a lot. Now, you want to work with the right investor, not the wrong investor. Now, as my dad used to tell me, everybody's money is green. So really, what's the primary thing we want? We want their money first. This perception that many people have, we want investors that add value. Well, it's great if you can get them, but don't expect it. What you really want is an investor that isn't going to do any harm to you, because the investors that do harm can kill your company. And the one thing of all the things that is the most difficult for a startup to overcome, and take it from me because I've been exactly there, is when you have an investor that causes you trouble. And when you have a problem investor, it is the most difficult thing for a startup to overcome, bar none. So that's the thing you want to avoid. So how can you tell that you have the right investor? Well, let me give you some tips here. The first thing you can do is ask for references. Ask your potential investors, can you give me a couple names of people who've worked with you in the past? It's a great way to go. And most investors should be happy to do that. When you talk to them, ask them, how is it like to work with these people? What did you like? What did you dislike? What would you change? 3 easy questions to ask. That's the first thing you should do. The second thing is see how you're being treated. It's like any courtship. Think about that. When you're courting somebody, when you're dating, right? You're always on your best behavior. You're always going to be at your nicest. Well, raising money is a lot like being courted. Investors are always going to be on their best behavior. So if you're seeing things that are troubling before you've signed that term sheet and committed to each other, well, that's a red flag that maybe more problems are to come after. Because once you're in, you're in. So if you're seeing things early, that's a real red flag that maybe if you have a choice, many of us don't have a choice. It's hard to raise money. But if you have a choice, maybe you should look for another investor. Okay, the third thing. Now let's go back to references. Now references from investors are good, but what's better? If you can find them, what I call backdoor references. In other words, find CEOs that have worked with these investors on your own, ideally CEOs that have failed. Those are the best because you can ask, did the investor support you even as the company was failing? And that's going to tell you a lot about the investor experience. But if you can find CEOs, ideally if they failed, either way, those are going to be even better reference checks. So do those if you can. Okay, my final tip here. Make sure you have a lawyer before you sign a term sheet that's familiar with investment term sheets, investment financing. That's going to really help you. They're going to understand deals. They're going to understand deal structure. They may even have experienced not many investors, but many lawyers do with many investors. So this is going to help you navigate those waters even better by having that lawyer in place before you sign the term sheet. If you don't, it's really tough for you. So you want that person in place. It's going to really help you, and it's worth every penny to you when you have the lawyer in place because you don't have much time when you get a term sheet. Okay, so now what's that magic tip for maximizing the value of your deal? Now think about this in any deal when you can set up competition between investors and you have somewhat of what I call a forcing function between investors. That's when you're going to maximize terms. That's when you're going to maximize the possibilities, and then you get to choose, hopefully, the best investor or investors to work with. So now how do we do this? If you're seeing traction, if you're seeing a lot of investors really interested, and you have to gauge this, then what you can do is you can set a deadline for receiving term sheets. I have done this with several CEOs that I've worked with over the past year. And they have done this, and it's worked in every single case. Because let's say we're sitting here And 2 months from now, we say, okay, we want all of your term sheets in 2 months or a month or whenever it should be. And you need to provide them by Friday the 30th, just to make up a date. Magically, on the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, you're going to get all the term sheets. And maybe you get lucky and you get more than one and you get 2 or 3. But having a deadline separates the people who are serious from the people who aren't serious. And the people who are serious, they act, they move, they get done because they're excited by your deal. And now maybe, just maybe, you have the opportunity to have multiple investors competing for you. That's how you can turn the tables. That's how you can flip things and get the best deal with the best possible investor. Try it. It works. So what do you think? What have you done that's worked for you when you've raised money? Or what are you trying to do? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Put them in the comments column below today's video if you have any, and I'll be sure to respond. Now I have one more thing for you that's going to help you when you raise your funding, and that's a free startup pitch deck template. It has all the slides that you need to help you raise money. And even better, in the comments column below each slide, there are notes on what you should put into each slide. It's really helpful, really useful. All you have to do is just click the link below today's video and it's yours for free. For more great content like today's video, all you have to do is just keep watching and some more options are going to pop up for you, and all you have to do is click the links. And if you want to subscribe to my channel again, just click the link that's going to pop up in just a second and you can get subscribed to all my future videos coming up for you. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today. Thanks again. Have a great, great day.